The views and opinions of this broadcast do not reflect the views and opinions of Armed Media, New Productions and its affiliates. Enjoy the show.
Teflon Pan Man. I'm the Teflon Pan Man. Ain't nothing gonna stick on me.
Ladies and gentlemen, or as we say these days, ladies and germs, welcome to All You Can Eat. It is the podcast about deliciousness. I'm your host, Rob Rosenthal, coming to you here with episode number 78. And happy to be with you during this very interesting time in our lives. And I'm going to start right from the very beginning and tell you that I don't intend to spend a lot of time talking about anything that is reminiscent of the bad news, of kind of the obvious, bad news. We're all in the same boat at this point, hunkered down, locked in, trapped. I mean, it's a weird time. And it's not a time that any of us have ever experienced before. I was talking about that with Paul. It's like, hey, I've never experienced anything. Like, no. The last time there was anything like this going on, it was 1917. Most of us were not here for that. I know I wasn't. Anyway, welcome to the program, All You Can Eat. Tonight's episode, by the way, and I hope you stay with me on this one, is all over the place. But it's all over the place about deliciousness, about what we eat and what we buy, what we can buy these days. Certainly what we're drinking, because I tell you, I've been doing the drinking. And what we can make and what other people make, and when are we going to go back? When are we going to go to a restaurant again? That's all those are the things on tonight's show. And so let's just get into it in no particular order. I have gone out. I normally would be coming to you from metropolitan New York City, the epicenter of this problem, but I managed to escape some many weeks ago. I'm 100 miles away, still in New York, in a place where there are a lot fewer people, and that's kind of what the deal is, and more of a country kind of situation. One of the things that I have out here that you can't get in the city is we have some farms, and anytime you have an opportunity to get yourself over to a farm that's still producing and selling, you do that for a couple of reasons. One is you want to support any kind of local business that you can during these times, and the other thing is like you've heard, you don't have to hear it from me. You've heard this 1,000 times before. Anytime you're getting something that's kind of fresh and local, you're always better off. It tastes better. It's fresher, it's good. So I have a farm here, not terribly far away, that I've been to, and it's a chicken farm, not a vegetable farm. I mean, and it's owned by the same family for, 50 years. So you got the second generation in there, cutting up chickens and selling eggs and if you like liver, by the way, as I do, chicken liver, I mean, most people don't take it. I go in there and I'll buy liver, And it turns out that when I went over to the farm a couple of weeks ago, there's a big sign out that says only one chicken per order, which that's fine. I would have had more if I could have, but I said, well, what else do you have? And they go, well, we have duck. I said, okay, fine. I mean, is it frozen or no, it's not. It's a whole duck, and it is and it's not frozen. Okay, fine. Put a duck in. So, and I, of course, and give me some liver because I know people. I'll take a pound of those livers and I'll take some of those eggs. So I'm happy now because I got a good order. But the thing about duck is, we don't generally duck is one of those things that we don't make. You know what I mean? People just in general don't make. You don't buy, you don't make. You have duck. It's generally because you went to some restaurant and they're selling duck a l'orange. Or you're lucky enough to be near a place that has a Chinatown and you can go for that Peking duck. I got to tell you, I think Peking duck is probably number 2 on my list of of like one of my favorite foods in the world, right? A little bit of roast duck, but a crispy skin inside a little thin pancake with that lovely sweet plummy kind of hoisin sauce and a slice of scallion, and holy wow, love that. But what am I going to do with a whole duck? Especially considering that it turns out I am in a home with a broken oven, right? So now the challenge is on because I've got a whole duck. It's not going to last forever. I have no room in the freezer, so I want to do something with the duck. And I will reiterate here about duck that, generally speaking, it's one of those foods I find that we don't eat a whole lot. It's like I said, it's a rarity, especially to have one at home. It reminds me that so is rabbit. I don't know why people are freaked out about rabbit. I'm a guy that went to, a French cooking school. We ate rabbit. We loved rabbit. It was just fantastic food. Nobody eats rabbit. I don't want to get into frog because whatever. I mean, the French eat it. I like it too. I'm not going to promote frog here, but we certainly don't eat a whole ton of rabbit, which is great. And we're not eating a lot of duck. Anyway, I bring a whole duck home. Now, I'm not saying everybody can do this. If you have an oven, you can figure out how to throw the whole duck in the oven and roast it for a while. I don't have an oven, so I got to figure out a different strategy. And all I want to say about it is this. I'm able to, because of my, my cooking school training, I'm able to butcher the duck down to its component parts, which includes a couple of breasts and a couple of legs and thighs, and then a whole lot of nothing else. And here's the beauty of the duck. I separate the breasts because I'm going to sear those. And then I separate the legs and thighs. I'll make those another time. I could stick that I got room for that in the freezer. And then there's a carcass and a whole ton of duck skin. So here's what I want to say about that. I just took the duck skin and put it in a big old pan and on a low heat and just let it go for an hour or so. And that generated, just so that you know, just the fat on a duck got me 2 pints of duck fat. Now you're saying, now if you're saying to yourself, who cares? The guy's sitting around with 2 pints of duck fat. I'm telling you this, that if you tried to buy duck fat in your supermarket, it would cost you about $12 for each of those pints that I got. I'm literally sitting on $25 worth of duck fat. Why? Because in the overall scheme of things, in terms of how fat goes, there's better fats, there's not better fats. Duck is up there. It's one of your better fats. In fact, let me see if I can find exactly where it is in the overall scheme. Hang on a second. Oh, here we go. No. I can't find it. Now that I want it, it's nowhere to be found. But long story short, from an animal fat, it's probably healthy may not be the right word. It's the least unhealthy of the fats. You'd rather use it than any other kind of, pork fat or beef fat or a whole lot of other fat. Duck fat, not bad. Not bad. And by the way, forget not bad. Have you ever gone to a restaurant and they're serving you duck fat fries, duck fat potato fries? I mean, they're amazing. Why? Because duck fat tastes freaking great. So I break down the duck. I got a couple of breasts. I got the thighs and the legs. I got the bones. I got now 2 pints of duck fat. They go in the refrigerator and they kind of harden, right, like butter. Beautiful, beautiful fat. All the bones go into a pot covered with water, little onion, little carrot, little celery, some peppercorns, maybe a bay leaf, whatever. And you boil that for a while until you end up with what they call duck stock. All right, look, I'm not saying this is for everybody. I'm just kind of repeating what I did here. And then, of course, on the breasts, which you can, if you ever do happen to buy duck, it's the most common way that they sell it is they will sell you literally the duck breasts. And the key with the duck breast is that you're going to take the skin and you are going to, what do they call that method when you slice? Slice, 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 and then slice, slice, slice the other direction into these cross hatches on the duck skin. Score. That's the word. Score. You're going to score the skin without breaking through to the meat. You're going to hit it up with a good hit of salt and pepper. Duck likes the pepper, and then skin side down in a pan, in a saute pan, in a any old kind of pan, whatever you call those pans. And you let that thing cook most of the time on the duck skin side. Like if you're going to cook a breast for, let's call it 15 minutes, about 13 of those minutes are on the side of the skin, because on that side, that skin is going to melt, or as they call it in the business, render. So you don't have to put any fat in a pan. You just have to put the breast, the skin side down. 13, 14 minutes on that side. The skin gets crispy. The fat kind of melts out or renders out. You turn it over for 1 minute on the other side. And when you break into a duck breast that you have cooked that way, what's remarkable about it is that it's like nothing you've ever tasted before, right? It's kind of like a marriage of steak and chicken, right? It's got kind of a richness to it that feels like steak, but you realize it's not beef. It's more from the kind of the poultry side. Beautiful, beautiful food. Beautiful food. That is the duck story. I have also been able to, over these past 7 weeks in, well, I don't know if it's quarantine or isolation, it's basically away, stop into my favorite store in America, ladies and gentlemen. It's Costco, and you know I go there because I am the Costco ho. Used to be, before the problem era, I would be in Costco every week of my life. I go a whole lot less now, less frequently now. They let you in kind of intervals. They're very careful in there. They manage the number of people in the store. I am in the Costco with a face mask on and gloves. Jesus. And there's a limit to certain things. There's only so much, toilet paper, water, and even now chicken. I mean, it's hard in there to get. So the rule in the Costco these days is you get 3 kind of meat products, and that meat includes your chicken, right? So if you get a chicken and you get like some hamburger meat, and maybe you want to get a pork thing, that's it for you. But Costco, bless you, I picked up fresh flounder where I am, local flounder. That's good. Too much of it, but great. Easy to make, easy to eat, always healthy, tasty, fresh. Picked up an enormous jar, by the way, of those, I should have really had the brand name here for you. I think it's Harry's or something. There's an enormous jar they sell of what they call something spicy pickles. I don't know if it's Harry's. Wow, those things are great, and they're not that spicy. A bag, like a giant kind of netted bag of Cara oranges. Ladies and gentlemen, when they're good, they're easy to peel, and they're juicy, and they're sweet, and they're really, this week they were fantastic. It's not always like that. They were great. It turns out that I am addicted in an unfortunate way to salted Virginia peanuts, and when Costco sells them, as with everything else, they sell them in a tub that's like, I don't know, 2.5 pounds, 85 billion calories. But I'll tell you what, a handful of salted Virginia peanuts, crunchy, salty, with your bourbon cocktail, life is good. There's a reason they call happy hour happy hour. Currently sitting with a glass of bourbon, Kentucky bourbon, topped off with some Costco sour cherry juice. If someone said to me, here's the bad news, Rob, you're only going to be able to have, from a cocktail perspective, for the rest of your natural life, Kentucky bourbon and sour cherry juice, I would go, you know what? I'm good with that. Oh, sure. Would I like a glass of red wine? Bang me out a vodka and a couple of cold beers? Yeah, but bourbon sour cherry juice? Woo! Hello! Remember that duck fat thing I was looking for? Well, here it is right in front of me. That's weird. I was looking for it, and I'm actually on. Duck fat, delicious. Duck fat, health claims. Duck fat. It may be close to olive oil, but it's still miles away. In other words, it's better than most other fats. It ain't ever going to be as good as olive oil. But it's another thing that you can buy in a lot of supermarkets these days. You can literally go in and they have containers of duck fat. You would use it instead of oil or instead of butter if you were going to, cook up anything. Sometimes you can cook up eggs with it. Sometimes, you could use it obviously with potatoes. Duck fat. What else have I been getting? No. So that's essentially what's been happening over there in the Costco separation, but also the usual fabulous food. You know what? One more thing. They have, and I mean, I suppose this is not really relevant to people who don't ever go to Costco, which I don't know why you wouldn't, but they do shrimp cocktail. It's like, I want to say it's like $9 or $10 for a platter of shrimp that are not big and they're not small, and they come with that cocktail sauce. And I got to be honest with you, they're fantastic. Shrimp are great. They're cooked perfectly. The cocktail sauce is wonderful. And as always with Costco, they're not making money on that. Apparently, they're making money on the memberships because if you went into a restaurant and ordered that much shrimp, you'd be $45 in debt. I'm not going in any order, my friends, but I got a call the other day from a writer friend of mine who said, what do you do with leftover wine? And of course my answer was, what's leftover wine? But then I thought about it and I realized I had a recipe that's kind of great if you happen to have leftover wine. And I mean, I don't want to make it sound easier than it is. Everything that I do is easy. When it comes to cooking, a lot of people these days are going, look, you know what, I like being home, I'm fine with cooking, but I'm ready. I got to get out of the house already, and I get that. But I guess where I want to go with this is like this. There are certain things that you never even thought about making before that you can make, and they're great. And one of those is poached pears. And I know it sounds... that could sound crazy or it's unusual or different or who would have ever thought of it. But in the context of, hey, I have a couple of, I have a cup or two of wine here left in this bottle. One of the things that you can do with pears especially is you can peel them, you can cut them in half and then take out the pits and the core and the inside. And then put them in in a saucepan, in a skillet, in a pot, whatever you want to call it, with an equal amount of water and sugar, and then cook it for a while until they look like they're kind of on the way to getting soft, and then dump in your leftover red wine. Frankly, you don't even need the water. If you have wine, you can go, let me just put wine, a cup of wine, cup and a half, 2 cups, depending on how many pears you're using, a whole bunch of sugar, a cup of sugar in there, and, you happen to have cinnamon in the house, you happen to have vanilla, it's not going to hurt you, it goes in there, and they get cooked down on a low heat, and 2 things happen. Those pears get soft cooking in the wine, fantastic, and then when you take the pears out, just to kind of let them sit and rest for a couple of minutes, they look beautiful, they're red, they're soft, they're sweet. You cook down the rest of that wine, sugar, even some water liquid in there. You cook it all the way down until it gets to be like a syrup. And the syrup gets poured on top of the pears. And maybe you have some vanilla ice cream in the house. Maybe you have some whipped cream. You will have a dessert that will blow your mind. So there you have it, my friends. You have some duck. You have some pears. So far, so good. Here's another thing, because we've been home a long time, and at some point you're basically using the stuff that's in the pantry. Oftentimes that's pasta. There's a couple of pastas that you can make that only that only take 3 ingredients. Now again, I am a guy that wrote a cookbook, and I am mostly proud of the fact that I have a formula, a user-friendly formula that gets that I can explain in 6 words. Most taste, fewest ingredients, least effort. I mean, it's good for most people because it's fast, it's easy, it's no nonsense, and it's freaking great tasty. And one of the things that you can make, you don't have to be gifted, you just have to have the right ingredients. So here's one for you, pasta. It could be spaghetti, it could be linguine, it could be fettuccine, it can be whatever. A long, pasta noodle is good. And I hope that you have some black pepper. And I don't mean the black pepper that you shake out of a can. I mean, you kind of need like real peppercorns that normally you would kind of grind. But let's say you actually had peppercorns in your house. And let's say you put them in a plastic bag and you banged them until they were kind of cracked. Cracked black pepper. You now have 2 of the 3 ingredients you need to make an incredible pasta. What's the third one? It's a cheese. Now, is it any cheese? I'm going to go not so much. You do want to try to get your hands on some pecorino cheese. That would be great. Now, is it going to be terrible if you had Parmesan cheese? No. Is it going to be bad if you had some other kind of cheese? Probably not, because we're talking about pasta and cheese and pepper, right? What's going to be so bad? But there's a very famous dish. It's a Roman pasta dish that goes by the name of cacio e pepe. And pepe means pepper in Italiano. And cacio is what they call pecorino romano, Roman pecorino cheese, which is a sheep's milk cheese that happens to be salty. And if you can get your hands on it, and in most places you can, not everywhere, and you grate up what they would call in the business a shit ton of pecorino romano, you grate it all the way until it's like powder, it's like snow, it's beautiful. How much? A lot. A lot. Just keep grating until you have a giant pile of pecorino cheese. And in another plate, you have a whole lot of smashed peppercorns. And the only other ingredient that you need to make magic is some pasta that you're going to cook in salted boiling water. How much salt? A lot. So the water is salty, the pasta is boiling, and all you got on the side right here is grated cheese and a whole lot of black pepper. Now you're saying to yourself, I don't know, black pepper, a lot of black pepper. Is it? What I discovered was my kids were fearful early on about all that black pepper going into a pasta because it seemed like it was going to be too peppery. But guess what? When I made the pasta, it has become then, in the subsequent 10 years, the single favorite pasta in my people's lives. So when that pasta is almost ready, and by almost ready, I mean you could take it out and it still has a little bite to it. You go, you know what, that could probably use another minute. And when you say that it could probably use another minute, pull it the hell out of the water and put it into a bowl. And put a big-ass handful of black pepper in there, crushed black pepper, more than you think that you can tolerate. I mean, you're looking at it, and that pasta looks speckled. And now with some tongs or a fork or whatever's going to move that pasta around slowly but surely, start adding in pecorino cheese. More. Toss it. Oh, is it starting to clump? Good. Then take some of that hot pasta water, a ladle full of it, and put it in there, because now you're going to make sauce with the peppercorns and the pecorino and the super hot, salty, starchy water from the pasta, and keep mixing it around. Need a little bit more of that cheese? Go. Does it want some more pepper? Good. Keep tossing. Have a taste. Woo! Are you kidding me? That's 3 ingredients to magic. Cacio e pepe, my friends, that's how you do it. That is what I'm talking about. Shifting subjects. If you know me, you know that I am a recommender. So tonight's recommendation for you, aside from all the things we discussed so far, is a product that will run you somewhere in the neighborhood of $100 more or less. Can you get one for less? Yes. Can you pay more? Yes. Subject? The air fryer. There's a lot of toys in the kitchen these days. I don't happen to own a, what are those cookers, those pressure cookers that everybody's using? I don't own one of those. I don't use a lot of the stuff that people use in the kitchen. Most gadgets, toys, equipment is bullshit. You don't need most of it. You need a good knife. You need a good pan. I like a thermometer, like one of those instant read thermometers. I like them because it's, you stick it in a piece of steak. Now you know it's medium rare because you can tell by the temperature. That's good. I like a good knife. I like a good cutting board. I like tongs. My goodness, I use my tongs for $5.99 for everything. Everything from tossing that pasta around to turning over that steak. But as a guy that's coming to you with no oven, I got to be honest with you, I love the hell out of my air fryer. $100. What's the best thing about the air fryer? You throw in your frozen onion rings into the thing, and you put it on 6-8 minutes at high temperature, and those are beautiful. You put some carrots in that air fryer, maybe with a little dash of olive oil if you want some flavoring. That's good. Chickpeas are good in there. I could bake a potato in there if I want to. That gets nice and crispy. It's an oven, right? So here's what I do with it. I actually put an entire chicken in there. I tell you, I roast the chicken every week, and you know why? Because I buy 2 of them at a time. That's how they sell them at Costco, 2 in a package. Take one of them out, hit it up with some olive oil, hit it up with some lemon, freshly squeezed lemon, some salt, some pepper, maybe there's a little garlic in the cavity. Boom! It goes in the air fryer for exactly 60 minutes at the highest possible temperature, which is 400 degrees. And then at the 30-minute mark, I turn that bird over, and it comes out like an hour. 1 hour, max temp, no deviation. Whoa, it's beautiful. Super crispy, brown, gorgeous skin, underneath of which you will have perfectly cooked, juicy chicken. Everybody should have an air fryer. Now, can you get away with not having it? Yeah, sure, you can stick stuff in an oven. Man, I'll tell you, given the choice between turning on my oven, going in there and checking on the temp and turning it around or sticking it for 60 minutes at 400 degrees in my air fryer, I'm talking about that's a once-a-week proposition. Cannot beat the air fryer. Is there one that's better than the others? I'm going to say I've had 2. I like them both. The Power XL air fryer, 5.3 quarts, I guess it is, $99. And then I have one, I don't remember the other brand. Corsari maybe is the name of it. Both good. Go to my website, shortorderdead.com. Somewhere in there I talk about, products that I like. Next up, again, I'm moving around all over the place. Hang on, let's have a sip of this beautiful. Oh my goodness. Bourbon and cherry. By the way, on the way to the podcast, I made a little something for the family. Costco sells those pork loins. They're 2 to a package. Like, that's a lot of meat. That'll feed. I did a little brine. You know what that is? You take the pork loin, you cover it with just enough water to cover it, and then you throw in some salt and maybe some pepper and maybe a little bit of sugar, and you just let it sit for 3 or 4 or 5 or overnight in the fridge, and it softens the pork and infuses it with a lovely flavor. Then right before you cook it or you sear it or whatever you're going to do with it, you just dry it, give it a little seasoning, and cook it. That's what's coming And that's what my people are eating right now, and that's what I'm on the way to. Um, anyway, I run across an article, and like I said, I don't want to kind of bum anybody out with what's happening in the world. All of us, there's not a person yet who's going, you know what, I think I'm just going to stay home for the rest of my life. We want to get out. We want to get in public. There's one of the kind of sad consequences, not for you and not for me and not for those of us that can't actually, kind of go out and go to our favorite restaurant, is the restaurant business is a nightmare. And it's one of the biggest businesses in America, and when people aren't going out, they go out of business. And a lot of people don't have jobs, and it's not just the people in the restaurants, it's all restaurants, including the people that bring the flowers and the people that supply the meat and the people that bring the chicken and the fish and the vegetables, and it's just horrible. But in answer to the question, at what point are we going to go back and go to a restaurant again? At some point, it's going to happen. It's going to happen. It has to happen slowly. And why? It's going to have to happen slowly because nobody is in a rush to. Well, I shouldn't say nobody. Most people aren't in a rush to get back into a place where they're surrounded by other people, everybody touching everything. So I picked up an article on. In this case, it happened to have been New York City, but this is relevant anywhere. The subject matter is what New York City dining might look like during reopening. And this is according to, not just anybody. This is experts in the field. This is people in the business. And in general, the rule is like this. Restaurants may start to implement reservations for bar seating. Like it'll start off like that. Maybe you can grab a seat at the bar. The next seat at the bar is 6 feet away. It might ask diners to voluntarily report health data before dinner using their smartphone. That's an interesting concept. Imagine that. What's your temperature? 98.6, you can come in. But basically, restaurants at this point are trying to figure out what measures they need to take to make diners feel comfortable enough to get back inside those restaurants. And part of the problem for restaurants, of course, is that they need to figure out what it's going to take to stay in business, right? Because there's a capacity issue. Some restaurants at 50% capacity maybe can make ends meet. Maybe even, if they're lucky, turn a profit. And then there are other restaurants that are going, I can't even open my doors and break even unless I'm at 75% of the capacity. In this case, restaurants that have kind of outdoor space have a slight kind of advantage. There's been discussion that like half of all bar stools are going to have to be removed to allow for that 6-foot distancing. And then there's other people talking about, well, we'll have floor markings. Like the distance thing is an issue. Another expert says that, where restaurants have to evolve is in delivery. Like, they just have to get good at delivery. And then there's this thing called ghost kitchens, which I don't even know how to explain, but it's basically kind of kitchens that are off-site. And part of the reason for that is because kitchens in general are small, confined spaces, and you can't put like a whole ton of people in the same little tiny place. Someone predicts that a lot of the smaller restaurants will close permanently, especially those that were unfortunate enough not to figure out how to get government relief on this thing. Somebody else suggested that cash transactions are going to be suspended. You're going to have to figure out a way to, pay for stuff. Well, that's kind of not a big deal because we were doing. And then safety, quality assurance, and hygienic measures will become hallmarks of the exceptional hospitality experience. So restaurateurs are going to have to figure out a way to go, you're okay here because these are the following 8 precautions that we've taken to make it safe for you to come out. Another expert says the industry will be forever changed. There will be less competition. Many businesses will not reopen. The ones that will remain open will be held to a higher standard. There will be increased competition as fewer businesses chase fewer customers. Smaller spaces, more distancing between tables, more muted environments, and many safety precautions will be required to make customers feel comfortable with returning to a social environment. iPhone, Android health data partnerships, where you can opt in to track your exposure on your cell phone. We may see restaurants asking customers to self-report this data. In addition, you ready for this? To temperature checks before you get into a restaurant. You thought it was only getting into the country? No. You want to come into my restaurant, I need to check your temperature. There may be reservations for bar seats in order to limit capacity, or even for bars. And there will be fewer actual menus, replaced more by ordering from your phone at the table. And apparently someone guesses that there'll be even fewer fluke crudos. In other words, fewer kind of raw food preparations, because people may be concerned about eating raw food for some reason. Here's another prediction. He says, I think that there will be long-term retrenchment from opulence, excess, gratuitous luxury in general, not just in the food. There will be less kind of flaunting luxury brands and more about people seeking experiences and products that unite us and reaffirm our humanity, not that separate based on class distinctions. That's an interesting observation. I don't know. I'd like to agree with it. I don't know. And then finally, a suggestion here that the layout of restaurants will change dramatically during the first phase of reopening. Tables will be removed to allow for more space. Bars will not allow standing. Menus will become single-use. Well, printing is not dead, right? And uniforms will include branded masks. Menus will get shorter to manage limited staff and capacity. Reservation times will be more spread out. Long story short, I'm not sure you're going to be able to walk into your favorite restaurant for some time. I mean, so for those of us that are kind of excited about the idea that one day we'll get back, I suspect that we will get back, but it's going to be a while before we get back to what we recall as the restaurant experience. Changing subjects, next, chili oil. Chili oil is very hot right now, and it's hard to understand why certain things get hot at certain points. And when I say hot, I don't mean hot spicy. I mean, popular. But I will say that in my kind of experience and exposure to what's going on in the world, chili oil is a big deal. And it turns out that there's the product kind of category is made up of different types of individual products. Like there's chili oil, and then there's what they call chili crunch. The difference being that the crunch or the chili crisp, has in it like bits of garlic and shallots and of actual kind of peppers that have been fried in oil, and they're part of this container, of this condiment, if you will. So there are some that are strictly just hot kind of spicy oils, and there are others that are crunchy because they have all these crunchy, pieces in it. But super hot right now, and I would say that if you're interested, here is why. Because this is a boatload of flavor to add to food. If you're not afraid of spicing, or even if you are and you just want to use a little bit of it, it adds a ton of flavor, either as an ingredient in your cooking. For example, let's just say shrimp, because I like that as an example, because I'm coming to the fact that right now fish and seafood has the growth of that over this last 7-8 weeks has been phenomenal. But I actually love making shrimp because it's kind of easy and it takes 3 minutes and it's easy flavor. Like you could literally take shrimp if you like them, and with some a little bit of oil and like it doesn't have to be a wok. You can just have a fry pan, right? And a teaspoon of some of this chili oil, a crunchy chili oil. I mean, you have yourself an amazing meal. So it's called spicy chili crisp. You can get that. You can get chili oil, and generally you can find it in the Asian section of your supermarket. And of course, you can get it online pretty much anywhere. But I think the most obvious place, and I love it a lot because, as I said, it's a ton of flavor, and again, it qualifies as my kind of like all you need is two ingredients. Honestly, whether it's the shrimp that I was referring to, or even it's string beans, or you just want to put it as a topping on a piece of bland chicken that you have. You want to talk about a ton of flavor. Get yourself some chili oil or some chili crisp, even better, and you have a whole new meal. A delightful, big flavor, etc., etc. Next subject, a quarantine surprise, ladies and gentlemen. Americans are cooking more seafood. A rare bright spot for the fish trade. Retail sales have set records. Consumers are trying species that even restaurants shy away from. You never really know what's going to happen in these situations because they're so unprecedented. But you got a guy here in New York who sells fish in the family business for, I don't know, since 1963, 37 and 20, 57 years. So now the son is selling. And then when restaurants close, guess what? This is one of those guys that all of a sudden he went from a ton of business to no business. But he's got a little retail space, and he goes into the retail space, and the next thing you know, people are showing up every day buying fish. People are buying at supermarkets and stores. Seafood purchases have set records. Year-over-year sales of canned and frozen seafood were 37% higher for the 4 weeks ended April 19th, according to IRI, the big firm that measures this kind of stuff. Some large supermarket chains closed their seafood counters so that their regular workers could help stock shelves that were empty. Still, seafood sales were up by 13% in the big places. So, long story short, seafood sales going bonkers, and people are buying like everything. Now, here's the thing. Even as a guy that cooks, I cook fish less often than most other stuff. I love, searing the duck breast. I'm good with chicken. I make meat. I'm happy with the pasta and the sauce. I like fire. But I don't make the fish as often. For a couple of reasons. One of which is I always find that it's a little not as easy. Shrimp is easy. Scallops are uncomplicated. I like the mussels and the clams. But even when I go to the Costco and I buy a whole ton of flounder fillets, I always in my head I go, you know what? That's a little bit. I have to be a little bit more delicate with that. I guess I'm just not that delicate. But it's not complicated. It's easy, and it's great, and it's healthy, and it's clean, and it's going bananas. That's the point of the story here. People are buying a lot of seafood and fish. Now, again, I'm here to tell you, shrimp, easy, good. I'm big on just getting the raw shrimp, and in a bowl, I maybe chop up a clove or two of garlic, and I put it in there with the shrimp. And then maybe I get myself some this ancho chili powder that I like so much. Not too spicy, but certainly a whole lot of kind of New Mexican style flavor. So I put maybe a tablespoon or so of that in with a pound of shrimp and a couple of cloves of garlic. Olive oil goes in that fry pan. Those shrimp are in and out of there in 3 to 4 minutes. Maybe you squeeze some lemon or lime on the stuff, and those are fantastic and easy. I've even made octopus. I'm not proposing that because I know people are freaked out about that whole thing. But, yeah, fish. Go for it. Here's a recipe for wok fried shrimp with garlic. Let's see what they say here. Sweet, spicy, and succulent. All you need, I like this, serves 4, takes a total of 15 minutes, and there are 5 ingredients. Holy crap, that is like my dream dish. 1/4 cup of vegetable oil, 2 pounds of large shrimp, salt and pepper, that's 1 ingredient by the way, 6 garlic cloves, lemon wedges for serving. Ingredients: in a large wok or skillet or whatever, heat vegetable oil over high heat for 5 minutes. Add the shrimp, season generously with salt and pepper, and cook, tossing occasionally until cooked through 4 to 6 minutes. Add 6 finely chopped garlic cloves and cook, tossing with the shrimp until lightly browned and the shrimp are done. Transfer to a platter and serve with lemon wedges. Ladies and gentlemen, done. Ta-da. Ta-da! That's all you need to do. Here's another thing. Put those shrimp in there with half of that amount of oil, sure, with the garlic, and then a tablespoon of that stuff I was telling you about, that chili crisp. Holy, I want that right now. I want it. And I told you about the cacio e pepe, which was the 3-ingredient pasta dish. But I'll tell you what, you don't have pecorino romano at home. But you do have garlic, and you do have olive oil, and you do have some spaghetti. Am I right? Stay with me here. Because all you need to make fabulous food is some spaghetti, some olive oil, a whole lot of garlic. You got some of that crushed red pepper? That would be good. And I'll take any kind of grated cheese that you have. I don't care what it is. Maybe it's the pecorino, maybe it's the Parmesan whatever kind of cheese you got. You got a large pot of salted boiling water. You throw in the spaghetti for 8 to 10 minutes. Remember, as soon as it feels like, oh, that could use 30 seconds more, I would take it out right about then. In a large skillet over some medium heat, put in a whole bunch, 1/4 cup of olive oil, throw in a whole bunch of garlic and red pepper, right? And then stir it until the garlic is cooked. It's not brown, but it gets a little bit of color on it. We're talking about 2 minutes. Take it off the heat. Take the spaghetti out using those tongs I told you to buy. Transfer it to the skillet over very low heat. Add a couple of tablespoons of that pasta water there and toss it into noodles. Look like they're coated with that sauce that you've made. What's the sauce? Garlic, oil, and a little bit of that pasta water. Add some cheese, grated cheese, maybe a little bit more olive oil if you feel like it needs it. Toss it all around. Put it on a serving platter and put it in your mouth. Not a lot of ingredients, a ton of flavor. Now, on a final note, and because we've been together now for 50 minutes, I have come to you with some recipes and some ideas. Maybe it's going to be duck, maybe it's going to be fish, maybe it's going to be shrimp. Maybe it's going to be like an air fryer, one of those things. Those are great. Or maybe we're just getting ready to get the hell out of the house and go to a restaurant that has super kind of hygienic, safety measures in place. And I'm going to give you one more thing this evening, ladies and gentlemen, before I take off. Well, you know what? Here, I love this. I discovered this tune, but it really makes me laugh. WWCBD, CBD, that's funny. What would Carroll Baskin do? Has anybody been watching Tiger King? If so, you know Carroll Baskin? Well, this song showed up for me today. What would Carroll Baskin do? And take a listen. Sick of wasting time with you. Got nothing left to lose. What would Carroll Baskin do? What would Carroll Baskin do? Basically, she would kill you. That's what that song comes down to. WWCPD. Finally, ladies and gentlemen, you got Mother's Day coming up. Don't forget your mom. Now, I'm going to propose something that sounds a little outlandish. I'll be the first to admit it. I'm proposing you grab a book for your mama. A book by the name of Short Order Dad. Now, you're saying to yourself, wait a second, Rob, that's stupid. Why would I buy a book for my mother called Short Order Dad? And the reason why is very simple. Because wouldn't the world be a better place, especially for moms, if more men cooked? I mean, and isn't that the concept behind the book? Putting men in the kitchen, periodically, making recipes with 5, 6 ingredients or fewer, most taste, fewest ingredients, least effort. If you agree with me that it would be lovely if men cooked more meals more often for more women and children, then you grab yourself a copy of the very well-rated Short Order Dad, One Guy's Guide to Making Food Fun and Hassle-Free. Pick it up on Amazon. I believe there's a few left in stock. They're $10. You hand the book to a lady, a mother, and you go, hey, Mama, give this book to the man in your life and tell him every once in a while you'd like a home-cooked meal. Hey, Jimmy, if you're there, I'm pulling out, as they say here. I feel like I have exhausted all the possibilities for this evening. 7 weeks in isolation. I am in the unfortunate situation of looking at myself right now in a mirror. I do not like what I see. But I'm happy to be not ill. And so, hey, Jimmy, if you're there, I'm going to say goodnight now to the lovely people. I'm going to say that I'll be back next Wednesday for episode number 79 of All You Can Eat. As I like to say, you know, it's the podcast about deliciousness. My name is Rob Rosenthal. I am coming to you on Wednesday evenings, generally speaking, live at 8 p.m. And, of course, then after that, you can find this very podcast on iHeartRadio and Spotify. These are two of the biggest platforms in the world, I'm happy to say. And until next week, life is short, so never waste a meal. Good night.
I'm the Teflon Pan Man. I'm the Teflon Pan Man. Ain't nothing gonna stick on me.